think I need therapy, y'all. Like, yo, why don't I remember this game? My bad, y'all. I thought I was initiated, but apparently that was a lie. What's going on, y'all? This is Anthony with themovieblog.com, and I'm back here with another video. We need to talk about The Last of Us. No, seriously. We need to talk as much as possible for my mental health. I need to talk to someone. OMG, this episode was doing the most this week. Now, for those of you who caught it, this week's episode premiered early on HBO Max. Now, I don't know about what y'all was doing, but when I heard that this was coming out on a Friday, I was checking for that joint right at midnight. I don't know. Maybe I missed it. If they said what time it was coming on, I missed it. But I was ready at midnight. At least I thought I was ready. But my gosh. Before I dive in, real quick, if you're new here to the movie blog, go ahead and do your boy a big favor and hit that like button. Go on ahead and subscribe. I need y'all to go ahead and subscribe, get initiated. This way, y'all can keep up with all the news, the reviews, and the interviews that happen right here on this channel. Now, this week's episode was a big change of pace from last week, and man, oh man, do I feel like that this episode actually delivered. Now, this week, the episode was directed by our boy Jeremy Webb. He also directed last week's episode. Jeremy, he's an experienced director, and he's previously worked on shows like The Umbrella Academy and Downtown Abbey. Now, let's go ahead and hop into it. As usual, let's start off with the good. This episode picks up right where last week's episode left off. Last week, the episode ended up with a young Kevon Woodard who plays Sam holding up a gun to Pedro Pascal's Joel. Now, I gotta ask you, like, for real, did you guys like instantly get attached to Sam and Henry? Like, maybe not instantly, but definitely by the end of the episode, I feel like we had gained two companions that were going to be in it for the long journey with Ellie and Joel. They kind of have that build up and set up for long time companions that we see in other shows that are similar premise and themes. Yeah. Woo. But yeah, the acting in this episode is also under the good. Now, I think the acting in this episode was on another level. Like, everyone from Henry to Sam to Kathleen, of course Joel, this episode from top to bottom had some really good performances from our cast that had my attention from beginning to end. Now, there are a few moments in the episode where I actually caught myself just sitting down and enjoying performances. I was just immersed, like, right? Like, whoa, they were really, really doing their thing in this episode. There was that one moment where, like, Henry was recounting his history with the people of Kansas City, and he was revealing how he was working as an informant for Fedra, and Joel was kind of like, I don't really mess with snitches, and Henry was like, you do today, right? Like, but everything said by Sam was like delivered so well. Everything said by Sam was like a truth bomb. It was a gut punch. It was everything. Like, my dude did not have any good news to deliver, but the way he delivered it was good. Something that was also great about this episode, and something that stood out with both to me, was about how Henry and Sam, they're like mirrors for the relationship between Joel and Ellie, and that's something that also happened with Bill and his husband, and it's these other relationships that are like reflections of the relationship between Ellie and Joel that helps us understand their progression in their relationship. Like, these other people that we come across in the show, they're reflections of Joel and Ellie in one way or another of the relationship between Joel and Ellie. And I love it. I love it because it's great writing. It's actually really, really smart writing. It's really, really creative. It's really thoughtful. And it helps us see this progression in our protagonists throughout the show in a very, very creative way. Something else that's in the good, the story in this episode, that was a nice eye-opener. Now, last episode, the KC people were chasing Joel. They're presented absolutely as the villains. Something I found interesting in this episode is that it kind of flips that concept on its head. It opens up with them showing a flashback to about 10 days ago with Kathleen's resistant movement finally overcoming the Fedra troops and dragging them through the streets in celebration. Now, this is a continuation of the themes of last episode. And when I first saw the scene, I admit I took it as I saw it from the surface level and made assumptions about the situation. I love how this episode just flips those expectations and reality so many times throughout the episode that it just we just never know what's really happening. They did it when we learned to deal with Henry and Kathleen and Sam and her brother. Like, all of what happened between them is messed up. It's really messed up because everybody was just doing what they needed to do to survive. There was no malice or beef between them before, but for Henry to keep his little brother Sam alive, he had to be a snitch for Fedra. Like, this is some real life stuff. Like, this is beyond good and evil, and I'm here for it, right? Go ahead. Give me more of that. Go ahead, Sony and The Last of Us. Sony, all of you guys, who knew? I had no idea you had this kind of energy, Sony. Thank you. Right? Like, we learned not to feel bad for Fedra throughout the episode. Henry explains to Joel that the Fedra authorities, they were abusive to the residents. They raped, they tortured, they murdered people for 20 years. It got so bad that Kansas City became known as Killer City because of the authorities. Let that sink in. Something else I thought was good this episode was the fact that I liked Ellie more in this episode. Yeah, Bella Ramsey was less the focus of this episode, and maybe I'm getting desensitized to her, but she was a lot less distracting this episode. I also really liked her relationship with Sam, and I finally saw my comic books. I finally saw them. Look, I don't know why these comics are such a big deal to me, but I was looking forward to Ellie reading comics a lot in this show. You guys know how I like my comics. But yeah, this episode, it was a lot better with the relationship bonding between these characters. I also like the changes to Ellie that we've been seeing from her character throughout the series. Like, she's still childlike, but she's slowly getting hardened by the world she's living in. Like, she wipes away her tears after she shot Billy last episode to save Joel, and she leaves that little note for Sam at the end of the episode. It's like the lights are slowly dimming for her. I also like the strength of the story, the writing, the performances. They strengthen the relationships between these characters. That does lead us into my next thing that I think that are good, that falls under the good, and that is, oh my goodness, the action scenes. Now, the action in this episode was really cool. I love how every episode they do something for the initiated, and we get some Easter eggs from the game in the show. This week, what stood out to me was the sniping, right? Joel did the thing from the game. He sniped away for Ellie, Sam, and Henry to make it across while getting hunted down, first by the KC people and then by the infected. Now, I couldn't get the footage from the show with Joel sniping, and I don't want to get another HBO copyright strike. But I did find this cool comparison video comparing the scenes from this week's episode on the show with the game. So we can check that out.
Wait, I have another one.
Wow.
Oh all right, ready?
Ow.
A blueberry hurt you?
It's been a while since that boy even cracked a smile.
Haven't heard that in a long time.
Yes! Come on! Yeah! Oh, awesome.
I like that.
Calm down. Hey, Sam.
Yeah.
Stand with a close-up.
Okay.
Ready?
Oh, Henry, did you see that?
Let's keep it down, buddy, okay?
To the edge of the universe and back.
To the edge of the universe and back. Endure and survive.
Excuse me.
Endure and survive.
Is everything all right?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Well, have a good night.
How is it that you're never scared?
Who says that I'm not?
What are you scared of?
Scorpions are pretty creepy.
Scorpions.
Being by myself. I'm scared of ending up alone. What about you?
Those things out there. What if the people are still inside? What if they're trapped in there without any control of their body?
Is it still you inside?
Scared of that happening to me.
Okay. First of all, we're a team now. Okay, we're gonna help each other out. And second, they might still look like people, but that person is not in there anymore. Damn, that smells good.
Good morning.
Where's Sam?
I let him sleep in for once.
Oh,
Well, if you want him to join us, you can go wake his ass up.
Sam?
Hey.
Shit, he's turning! That's my fucking brother! Screw it!
Shit!
Really? Elliot, you all right?
Oh my god.
Sam?
Oh no.
Sam?
Henry?
This was tough.
Henry, stay there. Henry?
What have you done?
Easy. Henry, give me the gun. Henry, give me the gun. What did I do? I'm gonna get that gun from you, okay? Oh, okay, easy.
It's your fault.
Give me the gun. Give me the gun, Henry. This is nobody's fault, Henry.
It's all your fault.
Henry! Henry, no!
Oh my god.
Henry, no!
Whew, that game was intense. The show's intense, and I'm here for it. I love all of it. Like, it was well filmed, and it capped off this episode with the death of Kathleen. Like, I had no idea what they was gonna do with Kathleen since she was an original character, right? A part of me was wondering if maybe they would change the story, maybe she would get revenge on Henry, just do something different because, he was supposed to meet a tragic fate anyway. But I think the way they handled her was kind of poetic in a way. I don't know. I thought it was nice. Something else that I thought was really cool this episode. What did you guys think of that bloater? Like, this dude just came out here like the Undertaker in the middle of the Royal Rumble. Like, you get a backhand, you get a choke slam, you get your head ripped off. Like, I really enjoyed all that. I enjoyed that the show just decided to unleash the infected for once. There's definitely a different pace to the show when something like, look, I know this show isn't The Walking Dead. It's not Black Summer. The dead are there, but they're more like a threat in the peripheral, right? Like, the show is in a universe with infected and whatnot, but they're not really the primary focus, right? They're not the primary antagonist. Heck, they're not even the primary threat. this show is mostly just an exploration tour of how bad things have gotten in this world. Like Joel and Ellie aren't here for a long time, right? They're in and they're out. There's no long running beef. There's no antagonist that the show is setting up for them to overcome in the finale. This show is just some sad stuff, and there's more bad stuff that's going to happen that we're going to see, right? But, there was a lot that was good about this episode. There was so much stuff that was good about this episode, from the effects, from the action, from the writing to the acting. There was a lot to love about this episode. Of course, with everything in life, when there's some good, there's always some bad. So something that I think in this episode fell under the bad was I wanted to see a little bit more from the undead in this episode. Like, this show is definitely reminding me a little too hard that they're more of a threat in the background and not the focal point of the show. Like, the more I see them, the more I want to see of them, right? It's not just me, right? Like, sometimes I wish the show would just dive into some more action and just show us the mayhem. Now, this episode has scenes of greatness, but man, like I said, this last week, we deserve more. And also under the bad, and this is kind of a nitpick because it's not, anything of their fault, but the deaths of Kathleen and her Lieutenant Perry, who was played by The Last of Us video game alumni Jeffrey Pierce. I'm going to miss Kathleen a little because Melanie Linsky does such a great job with the character. I really liked her monologue moment where she's in her old bedroom with Perry and just explains how her brother would forgive, but she won't. This show is not lacking in great performances, but I'm still going to miss Melanie Linsky. That scene. Ooh. But yeah, overall, this was a great episode. Like, I really enjoyed the pacing of this episode and the action. I really love the action. Part of me feels like this episode needs to be watched with episode 4 back to back. And I think I might go ahead and mess around and do that. Like, I might just go ahead, watch episode 4 and 5 back to back, see how that feels, and how they work together. But anyway, overall, I'm still giving this individual episode a 9 out of 10. Like, I really like the progression of this series and the evolution of all the relationships. I like that the games, the themes, the storytelling styles in this episode compare and contrast. And it really come together to address a lot of the issues that I've had with past episodes in this episode. Anyway, that's all I have for this one as usual. Like I said earlier, if you're new here, you might want to go ahead and get initiated. Go ahead, subscribe, join now because we're growing. So let me go ahead and give a shout out to some of our newer subscribers. Thank you. Thank you guys. You're helping us move the needle. You're helping us get closer and closer to 2,000 subscribers. Thank you. I appreciate you. You guys are helping me do for you what I do and keep paying the bills that help me do that. But yeah, that's all I have for this one. If you guys are new here, hit that like button, subscribe. Otherwise, I'm going to have to check you guys later.